the sound, you know how we do. This is, of course, the Lounge Presents podcast. We are streaming live on Twitch. And like every episode, this will be available on demand via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Now, today in the lounge space, we're welcoming an individual, first time ever in the lounge space, first time ever getting the opportunity to chat with this person. And they are going to be prominently featured in Winnipeg as part of the Kultivation Festival. And on August 25th, there will be a screening for their film, which we're going to get right into shortly. But before we do that, obviously, we've got to introduce Sean Devlin to the lounge space. Hey!
Hello. Thanks for having me, Jay.
Oh, yes. Pleasure. What we do on the pod, I mean, obviously we showcase creatives work. But one thing that I have a personal affinity for, obviously being of Filipino Canadian descent, is anytime we have an opportunity to showcase Filipino talent, then goddamn, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Love it.
Hell yeah. Now, Sean, you are going to be screening a film as part of Kultivation this year. We'll be getting to that very shortly. But before we do, we're gonna take it back a little bit, and we're gonna start the way we always start off the pod is, how are you, Sean, first introduced to film?
I was first introduced to film mostly through comedies. So I'm an '80s baby. I grew up in Ottawa.
Okay.
And so first early comedy films I remember is like The Naked Gun, which is now making a resurgence. A new version has come out.
Yeah.
And then also there was just also so many comedians from Ontario that became some of the biggest comedians in the world when I was quite young. So people like Mike Myers, Jim Carrey. Again, I'm from Ottawa, so Norm Macdonald and Tom Green. These were all people that I looked up to as examples that maybe since I was also from Ontario, I could do comedy, I could make films. So yeah, that's where it all started, I think.
And one thing that I found interesting, I mean, we're speaking today because we're going to be talking about your film, but you're a comedian.
Yeah, I'm a stand-up. I've been doing stand-up for over 20 years since I was a teenager. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm very curious. Obviously, the foundation for you was comedy. So what was it about comedy that made you want to pursue it as, something that you really wanted to do?
It started in the classroom. Like I think for a lot of kids, the class clown or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But what I realized at a very young age that's, still active in my work now is that in a classroom, there's a clear hierarchy, right? Like the teacher is in front, the teacher talks, you're not supposed to interrupt the teacher. But what I learned really quickly that, many of us know is that you can interrupt the teacher if you make a joke. And if you can even make the teacher laugh, then you can probably get away with it.
Yeah.
And so I fell in love with comedy as a kid as a means of basically disrupting power. And I've continued to use it that way often as an adult.
Little early disruptor going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of folks either you were that kid in the class or you remember those kids in the class. It's not unique. I think every class needs one at least. And that's where I first fell in love with just the craft of getting other people to laugh.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're growing up in a Filipino household, oftentimes, and if you're Filipino, you can relate. For most folks, you can relate. there's a certain expectation about, what the parents want the kids to do. There's visions and sugar plum dreams of, doctors or lawyers, or the whole gamut, right? And it's not often that, I mean, especially if they're first generation, if they came over in the early 70s or even before that, right? Introducing the idea of not only being a creative, but pursuing your creativity as a vocation is a very alien concept. When you knew that this is what you wanted to do, how did the family react to that?
Well, your powers of cultural intuition are very accurate. My mom wanted me to be a lawyer. She really, really wanted me to be a lawyer. And to be clear, so my mom immigrated to Edmonton as a student during the Marcos reign. That. Yeah. And, but my dad is white. My dad's from the Maritimes. He's like of Irish ancestry. So I'm mixed. So my mom had all those hesitations that you're describing. My dad a little bit less so, and that was definitely helpful. But I do remember how I did it. I knew I wanted to do comedy, and I was, I think, maybe 13 or 14. And I was scared to tell my mom because I knew she would at least have questions, if not outright.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I actually told her, my uncle, who was one of her favorite relatives. Okay. I told him, and I asked him to tell her. That he would be kind of the first one through the door and get that initial backlash, and maybe by the time she talked to me about it, she might have gotten some of that opposition out of her system. So that was how I approached it, and that was when I was a teenager. And to be honest, she didn't fully accept it until my late 20s. Like, I had been doing comedy almost 10 years at that point and gone to film school and, working in these industries. And she would still be like, oh, have you thought about going back to school? Have you, all these things. And, and then, it was in my late 20s, she eventually accepted it and for some reason appreciated it. Yeah, for the first time. It was a breakthrough.
Now, I've got to ask, what brought that breakthrough on? What did it take?
Yeah, so it was that one of her younger colleagues at work had come across my comedy and told her oh gosh, I saw Sean do whatever the thing was, and he was great. That was so funny. And for some reason, when she heard it from a colleague, it became real, right? Until that point, I was just off kind of, I don't know what she thought I was doing, but I was doing all this work. And it wasn't until, a colleague said that they had seen it and appreciated it that she kind of started to change her opinion.
There you go. I've found over time and talking with creatives, especially of Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z. I'm talking like the full gamut. There always is a breakthrough moment, but it takes a situation similar to what you described.
Yeah.
For it to coalesce in their minds that, oh, yeah. they are this, or they are, fill in the blank. But it always takes that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're still, until a certain point, you're still the baby. I think they remember you as a baby. They think you're, just going out and doing things. And when my mom was, when my mom really wanted me to hear her, let's say she was kind of frustrated, she wouldn't say my name. She would start the conversation saying, "My child."
Oh.
And then she would make her point. But I think that language is indicative of, even in my 20s or whatever, talking to me this way, that's ultimately how she viewed me until, other people started to see my work in the public sphere. And then she appreciated it a little differently.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you can't really blame our parents for it taking that, because they're hardwired in a certain way, and really they're just looking out, right? They're just looking out. That's all.
Yeah, looking out. And I mean, her journey, I think, like a lot of Filipinos, was, there was a very specific way she was able to come to Canada. And she, growing up, she lost her mom at a very young age. She was, raised by her grandma, and they were, basically landless squatters when she was very young. So she really, started her childhood at that place.
Yeah.
And then when she came to Canada, it was on like a full ride scholarship. Like, she just did so well at school in the Philippines that eventually the Canadian government not only paid for her school, but like paid to bring her over here, paid to like set her up.
Yep.
So for her, everything she got in my whole life that I've enjoyed, and my existence even, it all came through, of course, hard work and commitment to studies. And so when you're saying you want to crack jokes for a living, it definitely runs counter to, the only thing that she knew that worked, right? And it did work. So I never really held it against her. I think, there was times of, frustration, but over time she came around, and I get it.
Yeah, I think, and I'm sure, creatives of Filipino descent know exactly what we're talking about right now. You know what I mean? Because you accept why they don't see what you're taking very seriously and what you're very passionate about as something that you could do for the rest of your life, and that's fine. But I mean, there's also those feelings of, yo, man, can I be seen? You know what I mean?
Yes, right, totally.
Right. And that there's that too. And I mean, creatives are we're traditionally hard on ourselves already.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
I mean, no one, criticizes ourselves as much as we do. So sometimes, like, you understand why, but you're like, I really wish you would just get it.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I mean, and part of it too was like, there was some stuff comedically that I enjoyed watching that for her was like lost in cultural translation.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
Saturday Night Live, which I loved growing up, and my dad enjoyed because he had also experienced it since he was like a teenager or whatever. Stuff like that. Sometimes my mom wouldn't fully get the jokes all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that also contributed to her not understanding why I wanted to do it, because in some ways she just didn't even understand the comedy that I enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Makes total sense. Now, what I find interesting is, as a comedian who you've been doing the damn thing for a minute now. You got nominated for a Juno for a comedy album.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know what you're doing, and you're following the path that you were meant to follow. I find out about this film and the fact that it's not necessarily your first production. You're behind the lens rather than in front of it, and it made me wonder, what did it take for you, who is accustomed to being the center of full attention, especially for a comedian? It's just you on stage. Have you done any acting in front of the camera beforehand, or did you just drive yourself directly behind the director's chair and said, all right, let's shoot?
Yeah, I mean, it started in school when I was a kid. When I was maybe 11, we moved from Ottawa, where, I grew up there, and it was like a subsidized housing co-op. It was mostly migrant families there. So it was just, I grew up with kids from Tanzania and Jamaica and Chile. And, it was just like so diverse. And that's what I knew from, before I can even remember. And then when I'm 11, my mom gets a better job in Guelph, Ontario, in a smaller town in Ontario. And we moved there, and it's literally my first time to experience racism. Like, I grew up in such a diverse environment in school that I just didn't really see it. And some of it might have been how naive and young I was. But
that's fair.
Suddenly I get to this school in this town where, like, I'm the only kid that's not white. And, again, I'm mixed, right? So if I'm standing out, it means that that's a very white town.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was standing out, and it was a whole new set of challenges at that formative age. And so part of what happened was that whole class clown thing. I sort of got stage fright. Like, I suddenly didn't have the confidence to be cracking the jokes in class. And so what I did in that first year in this new town was, there's this, friend of mine who was a white kid who, I got along with. And when I would think of something funny to say, instead of saying it, I would whisper it to him, and he would say it, and he would get the credit for the joke. And so that lasted that whole first year. It was like grade 5. And I could see how kind of popular he was getting and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just be saying my jokes. I shouldn't give them away like that.
Yeah.
And then so the next year I came back to school and I started being more comfortable and saying the jokes myself. But in that year, when I was kind of hiding, I experienced kind of being behind the scenes. Do you know what I mean? Even though I was only 11 years old, I experienced what it was like to write for somebody else.
Yeah.
And
direct their scene.
And direct their scene, yeah. And then I loved that part of it much more than acting, even at that young age. So I would like write plays in school. I would, write skits for the school Christmas, whatever, assembly and stuff like that. So for me, from a young age, I liked being kind of behind the scenes. And, of course, stand-up forced me to put myself up there, and I enjoy it. But I always wanted to be involved more behind the scenes. And so, yeah, when I finished high school, I went to like a 10-month film program in Vancouver. And I just started learning about film and video production and, working as an editor. And so I've done a bunch of different roles in film production, and over the years just focused more and more on writing and directing.
It's interesting that you knew that young that you wanted, to be more, behind the lens. Because I feel like at that age, I didn't know many other kids that were thinking, that far ahead.
Well, it was a curiosity or something I enjoyed. To be clear, I was still confused enough that I also thought that I might be a professional hockey player or a professional basketball player, right? Like I still had those other more typical dreams. But the more I went with it, as I went through high school, writing and performing and doing these things, the more certain I became that that's what I wanted to pursue.
Dope. I love it. I mean, if anything, that just makes you, even more of a threat, because you've got your comedy bag, and now you've got your film bag. Like,
thank you.
That's double threat right there. Now, speaking of film, this very interesting story that you're telling in this film, please tell us. I pardon me if I butcher the title.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I was like,
oh, it's ASOG.
ASOG. Okay, thank you. Yes, the premise for ASOG. Please break it down, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, so I connected with a comedian in the Philippines, in Leyte Island, which is where my mom was born and raised.
Okay.
And so when Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda, who, I think your listeners will remember, at least the Filipino ones, from 2013, was the strongest storm ever recorded at the time. And the island that it decimated was, many islands were affected, but the one you saw in the news where there was huge devastation was Leyte. And so, this was an island that I had, been introduced to through my mom and come to love through my mom's, being born and raised there. And so when I saw the devastation, I really wanted to do something. And I had a mentor who had taught me this really great thing about responsibility. What she taught me is that people tend to think of responsibility as a burden, but the actual meaning, if you want to break it down linguistically, lyrically, it's two words. It's response and ability. It's your ability to respond to a situation, right? So when you see something happening, like when I saw this typhoon, what is your special ability? And how can you use that to respond to it? So for me, like we just covered, it was this comedy bag, it was this film bag.
Yeah.
And I just started to try to figure out what can I do with this? And so, I made some short documentaries with organizations there that weren't like funny or anything. But on the first anniversary of the storm, it's like over 10,000 people, at least the community estimates, passed away. So it was a hugely tragic day of mourning on the 1-year anniversary. And I'm there and I'm interviewing survivors, and it's, very sad and intense, but real. But because I'm a comedian, right, like I kind of need to laugh like pretty much every day. And so I'm doing all this filming, and then I asked someone I'm working with, I'm like, are there any comedy shows in town? And I almost thought it was maybe an inappropriate question, but they're like, yeah, you should go to the other side of town to this bar. You got to go see Jaya. Jaya's doing a comedy show, and they're actually doing this big comedy show tonight on the anniversary of the storm. And I thought, wow, that's a really bold choice to do a comedy show on the first anniversary of this huge day of mourning. So I go to this show, and like, your Filipino listeners will know, it's not like Canadian comedy, it's Filipino comedy, right? So there's jokes, there's stand-up, but there's singing, there's dancing, there's karaoke, of course. And there's what, in the West we would call drag, but Jaya doesn't call it drag. Jaya just says, I'm Jaya and I'm a comedian, right? So Jaya's doing jokes, the audience is in stitches, and then the karaoke portions come in the show where someone from the audience will get on stage and sing. And every time someone gets on stage, they choose to sing the favorite song of a loved one who they lost in the storm.
Oh, damn.
So they're covering all the classics you might expect at a Filipino karaoke, right? It might be Frank Sinatra, whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
but damn. As they're doing it, they're just weeping, right? But then everyone in the crowd has also experienced this, right? Like it's the anniversary. Everybody lost somebody.
Yeah.
So the whole audience starts weeping, right? But of course, these Filipinos, they're gonna finish the song, so they nail the song. All this emotion comes out, and then Jaya walks on stage and starts snapping jokes, and everyone starts laughing again. And I was just astonished. I mean, I had never seen a show like this, and this went on for 2 hours, over and over. People coming on stage, singing, crying, and I was like, "This is magic. This is real healing that this performer is like manifesting right now collectively with everyone." And so I told them on the spot, like, we need to work together. I got to do something with you. It was another 4 years before we started writing this movie. It took some time, but we wrote this movie together, and it's basically about Jaya traveling across the island to go to a beauty pageant. And on the way to the pageant, they're just meeting all these different Filipinos who are experiencing the aftermath of the typhoon in different ways. But it's a comedy. It certainly has tragic elements, but it's full of comedy, in part because Jaya is such an incredible performer. Everyone in the film is an untrained actor. Jaya had never been on camera before. They were a really experienced stage comedian. But everyone in the film is a real person who survived Yolanda. And they're all kind of sharing their own experiences and reenacting but also just having fun with it. It was all done through improvisation. And so, yeah, it's many different things. But at the heart of it, I think it's about what it's been like on this island to survive the last 10 years and how to find a way to laugh and love life again, despite all the tragedy.
Sean, you've baked up this melange of, as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about what this looks like on screen, because, you know, my first assumption was that this is, you know, a documentary, it's somber, you know what I mean? Because the source material is very serious, and you go even deeper than the actual typhoon itself. You go even deeper. So I'm like, oh man, this is like a serious film. But now hearing you talk about it, and then remembering seeing it listed as a dramedy, because that kind of threw me. I was like, dramedy? What? What are you talking about? But now that you're describing, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I include, you know, the origin story of meeting Jaya, because so much of what might seem, you know, unique or strange about the composition of the film, it was all there in that bar when I first saw Jaya perform, right? Like the real emotion, the genuine like catharsis, you know, people crying, but then people 10 seconds later like laughing, and we just wanted to kind of honor that you know, when you're enduring a tragedy and you're living through grief, it's not just this one note sad thing. Like certainly it's sad, but there are moments of like absurdity and hilarity. There's moments of anger and horror, and you know, and that's what losing a loved one is. So we really tried in the film to honor the emotional complexity of what it's like to experience loss, and that it's not just sad. There's many other things about it.
When you decided who you wanted to work with in terms of the people in the area, when you first initially approached them, how did they respond to you wanting them to get involved?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, just to be clear, we paid folks, so just so people know that, right?
And of course, so that helps.
That's part of it. Yeah. But I mean, it's not the main part. I mean, ultimately, folks knew. You know, we would explain the purpose of the film, which in some ways I just described, and it was, you know, almost always something they instantly like believed in and wanted to be a part of. And then I think a big part of it was that you know, for everyone who appears in the film, they get at least one kind of comedy moment, one comedy beat, right? Okay, nice. So it wasn't just saying like, we want you to come and we're going to ask you to tell your traumatic story, right? Yeah. You know, there's elements of that at times, and, you know, we were very careful in how we handled that. Yeah. But it was also saying like, you know, we've got this scene and we think you would play this really well because here's why this scene is funny, right? And to give an example, one of the scenes early in the film, one of the young protagonists in the movie, he's a teenager and he's lost his mother. And his neighbors, he has 3 female neighbors who come over, and they're talking to him about needing to prepare the novena ceremony for the 1-year anniversary of her passing, right? So, you know, in the Catholic tradition, this is a very serious event, But what we told these women who were really this guy's neighbors, right? And to be clear, his mom I knew, and she was in my other movie.
Oh, okay.
And we did really lose her, right? So the emotion of this scene is all real.
Yeah.
But then the joke was, we said, you ladies, you know him, you're going to come over, you're just playing his neighbors. You really are his neighbors, so it won't be hard. But the joke is that when you're starting to explain the preparations for the novena, you just get really excited about planning a party. And then it's just the three of you vibing on the details of all the stuff you could do for the party, the food, the decorations, and as soon as we explained that, they got it. They started giggling, right? Okay. And to me, that's the foundational part of making this film, is getting people in on the joke, right? Because then when these atis, they get the joke, then they're just running with it, right? They're improvising. I'm like, what is stuff that you would bring to the party? And they're just making stuff up and saying stuff. And eventually they say something and it's really funny. And we're like, oh, that's great. Do that again. But the key to it is that they're in on the joke. They get why it's funny and they're running with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it. I love it. I like what you did there. That certainly readjusts what I'm thinking about this film.
Okay.
Like I said, I honestly thought it was it was somber, and it was, just here's the facts. This is what happened. This is the toll, on the community and the people in the community. But I like that you put that twist into it. It makes it not necessarily more palatable, but definitely more interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, of course, we have audiences in mind making a choice like that. But ultimately, it started with ourselves and the people we were working with. Is just like, we don't want to just be asking people to re-traumatize themselves over and over.
Yeah.
We don't want to just be making a movie for years where that's all that we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, Jai and I are both comedians, so it's like, of course, we're going to bring comedy into this. And if we can get other folks involved, no matter how inexperienced they might be, then there's going to be some aspect of just fun in making this thing. And if we have enough fun making it, that's going to communicate to the audience. And as the movies toured the world, we've just seen that there are, of course, there's serious moments. There are tragic moments and very real sadness in the film, but it's consistently got this comedic tone throughout it, and the audiences seem to love it.
Well, what I like about it is the fact that the people that are featured in your film, they're not defined by this tragedy.
No. Yes.
That's the best part.
Yep. Great point. Yeah.
Love that. Oh, love it. Damn. Now, shooting in the Philippines, I'm sure is mad fun, big fun. Like the idea of being able to go down and shoot anything. I personally have a couple things I'd love to do in the Philippines.
Oh, cool.
In terms of the production of some sort. But I'm not. Okay, I'll be honest. I don't speak the language. I'm not fluent at all.
Me neither. Yeah.
Right. So how did you communication to shoot?
Yeah.
So speak the same language.
It was really challenging, and it took a long time. I would work through translators. Jaya would often be a translator. But not only do I not speak Tagalog, but because the people in the film aren't trained actors, and they're just kind of, we would have an outline for a scene, and then they would, for the most part, improvise the dialogue.
Right.
We would just invite them to speak in whichever dialect they were most confident and comfortable speaking. So there's multiple dialects in the film, just depending on who was on camera.
Yeah.
And so I would work through translators, and the interesting thing is that even though I wouldn't know necessarily the full detail of what people were saying as it was happening, right? I would have to wait for the translation afterwards. Yeah. I could see, like, as a director and as a comedian, I can see the timing and I can see the rhythm or like the emotion in their performance. And in an interesting way, me not understanding their words allowed me to focus more on those universal aspects that when we show the movie in Poland or in an English speaking country or whatever, they similarly don't understand the words. They're also engaging more with that level of it. So it allowed me to do that. And it was a way in which people who appeared on camera got to have more control of how they were being, portrayed, right? Because they're speaking in their own dialect and largely in their own words. And it just meant it took time. It was slow.
I can imagine. I can imagine. That's awesome that you're able to do that, though, because I mean, to be able to shoot anything, period, to be blessed with the creativity, to have a vision that you can bring to life and share. I mean, there's that, right? Just being gifted with that, but then being able to take that gift and do something like what you did with this film, ASOG. I mean, it's one of the best things about being a creative, that if you're not a creative, you're never going to know that type of, that feeling of, that intangible feeling that obviously I'm having trouble finding the words for as a creative, and sharing what you're able to come up with in your head and sharing it and being open to share it with the world, not just, your family or your friends, but you're sharing this with the entire globe. And from what I've seen, the reception has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been really well received. And I mean, in terms of that vision thing, I think because of how collaboratively this film was made, part of the pleasure I get from it is, in the end, it is in some ways what I envisioned, but in maybe just as many ways, there's a bunch of stuff that's not what I envisioned, right? Which is just all these things that these other folks brought to it from their real lives, from their real stories. And so it grew and it evolved as we were making it. And then when it's done and you look at it, it's like, oh, that's what we were doing. This, we started making this in 2018, right? 7 years ago. So it's been really well received. It's done, a lot of major festivals and just festivals all over the world. And I haven't been able to go to all of them, but all the ones I've been to, it's been incredible to see Filipinos showing up. So we had sold out screenings like in Brazil, where like the Filipino restaurant in Sao Paulo is like bringing people out.
Nice.
We had screenings in Warsaw in Poland, where this Filipino priest brought his whole congregation to the cinema.
Nice.
And then we're in Australia, and of course so many Filipinos there coming out, and so it was just like everywhere we went, like Filipinos showed up. And not only Filipinos, the film is not just for them, right? It's not just for our Filipino friends, but it definitely resonates in that way. And then the amazing thing has been seeing how it resonates with folks who aren't Filipinos, seeing the parts of this very specifically Filipino story that are in some sense universal, or at least relatable to people from lots of different cultures and backgrounds. It's really been like beyond anything we expected, like truly, because we had our premiere at the Tribeca Festival in New York City.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Hold up. We got to give you your poppers for that.
Okay. Yeah, you got some. So we go there, and then we hustled, and we got tourist travel visas for Jaya and Arnell, the two stars.
Nice.
And Jaya and Arnell had never left the country. Like they had maybe only even been to Manila a few times, right? Yeah. So them getting like a 10-year travel visa to be able to go to America, and then their first experiences, they go to New York City and they're like on a red carpet and stuff. Like, like it was incredible for me, but it was amazing to be able to experience that hand in hand with them and experience it through their eyes. And so just the love that audience has given the film all over. Like, so then even a few months ago, the movie was invited by Harvard University. They presented the film at the School of Human Rights at the Kennedy School.
Okay.
And they brought Jaya again to America.
Hey, nice.
So then we're at Harvard, and Jaya's at Harvard, and like, doing like a little lecture thing with the students there and stuff. And, so they're just stuff like that. Like we never even imagined anything like that while we were making it. So, getting to see the movie go out into the world more and more has been like a huge blessing. And anytime I'm able to, be with an audience that's experiencing it, it's just, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that the film goes a little deeper. We don't want to give too much away, obviously, because we want people to come out and see this, right? But I know we can talk about the fact that when you do any sort of production, you know what you envision for it. And like you said, usually there's some surprises along the way that you didn't expect that happened to work out really nicely. One thing that I think was interesting was who was listed as the EPs for your film.
Right. So Adam McKay, who's a huge comedy director, did all these Will Ferrell movies, and used to be the head writer at Saturday Night Live and Succession and all this stuff. He came on board as an executive producer. Alan Cumming, who hosts Traders and this amazing actor, he came on board. And then Joel Kim Booster, who I've known for a few years just through stand-up, he came on board. So yeah, we've been fortunate to have these some pretty big names, at least relative to my own or to Jaya's name, to come on board and just help to raise the visibility of the film, because they saw what we had done and just felt like they wanted to help get it seen by as many people as possible.
It's interesting that you say get it seen by as many people as possible, because yes, obviously that is the aim, and based on everything we've been able to hear about this film, if you don't want to see this film after this pod, I can't help you, homie. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
But again, I don't want to give away too much about the film, but I read somewhere, maybe you can clear this up. Was there an attempt for this not to be seen by a wider audience?
Yeah. So basically what happened is, it's not giving away too much, but one of the things that happens in the film is along the road, they encounter some folks who truthfully, in the aftermath of Yolanda, of that storm, the Ayala Corporation, which is the biggest real estate company in the Philippines, I'm sure your Filipino listeners are familiar with them. They, in partnership with some other companies, swooped in right after the storm and basically took the land that these, more than 5,000 people lived on, and wouldn't let them come home, and then built a resort and an airport on it. So, this is a very real, very, awful thing that happened. And some of these folks are featured in the film, explaining, what they experienced and all this. And when a company does something like that, especially in the Philippines, they really feel like they can get away with it because no one will find out. Because, these people on this island, the island is called Sicogon. It's a very remote, small island.
Mm.
And so when we made this film, the community, of course, really wanted it to happen because they had been demanding justice and reparations for years, and they felt an international film was going to help them get that. And so this company has, at different moments, especially at its Manila premiere, it was invited to the Cinemalaya Festival in Manila, which is a great festival there. And then it was screened at a cinema that was owned by Ayala. When you talk about things you never expected to happen.
Poetic.
And so we were like, well, this is going to be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here. We thought they might just cancel it, or we didn't know what they would do. And so what they ended up doing was they because they controlled the ticket sales, they made it hard for people to buy tickets. When people showed up at the door, they told them it was sold out, and it wasn't. And then they added an opening to the movie. So they added a title to the start of the movie where they basically said, this movie depicts certain things that happen on this island. We just want people to know that everything is fine, and just kind of trying to dismiss it. But it's weird to start a movie that way.
That's cold.
And so people got upset when we shared this on Instagram that this had happened,
as they should.
And they started, messaging Ayala on Instagram, and so we demanded that Ayala should pay some of these reparations that were overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And literally within 48 hours of this Instagram response, they turned over a check for over $500,000 to the community.
Damn!
For the outstanding reparations. And I'm very proud to say that, and it's really the community here. Like, the movie played a role, but this community has been organizing and fighting for over a decade.
Yeah.
But in the 2 years that we've been touring film festivals, it's now over $7 million has been paid in reparations to the community.
Wow.
And they've been able to build 474 new homes, but it's not done. Like, they're still owed through like a signed reparations agreement. They're still owed another $1 million, like basically another, whatever, I think it's 19% of the money. And like the legal titles to the new land that they've had to move to where they've built these houses. So it's definitely been like a successful, solidarity effort with this community via this film.
Yeah.
It's not finished, right? Like, they're still owed, a large chunk of money in these deeds. So, and then the important thing is, like, the at the end of the day, the reason the corporation has responded is because of people who come watch the movie, right? If we made this movie and nobody saw it, the corporation wouldn't care.
Right.
But every time audiences show up and it keeps going to new cities or, getting new viewers online, the company's tracking this. And the more people see it, we've very clearly seen, the more the company honors the commitments they've made to reparations. So, for anyone who's listening in Winnipeg, want to get all those Filipinos in Winnipeg to please come out and see this movie, because it is really making a difference. And not too often you get an opportunity to make a real difference back home and just do it by eating some popcorn and then watch the movie and then sign the petition and that stuff too. But just please come watch the movie and get engaged with what's been happening.
Still a disruptor, eh, Sean?
Yeah, right. Thank you for bringing it back. Thank you. Full circle. It's a lot of the elements of that are all there in what I was enjoying as a kid in school.
Sean, I really got to big you up because I love the whole idea for this film, especially hearing now from you personally, what goes on with it, your journey. I love your journey. It's so awesome. I hope, we get a chance to get you in the lounge space again sometime in the future. Maybe if you drop another comedy album.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
You're not done with comedy, I'm assuming.
No. I mean, I haven't had too much time for it because of the movie. Yeah. But yeah, one of the last big shows I did was in Winnipeg at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. I taped a set there for CBC.
Is that 22?
I did a different one for CBC 22, but I was just there last May.
Okay.
At the Comedy Fest at the Burton Cummings Theater, I think it was.
Hey, there you
go. So that was a great experience, and I hope I get to come back sometime soon.
Unfortunately, you will not be here for the screening.
I won't. Yeah, I'm very sad about that. Yeah, I hope folks enjoy it. I hope you can tell people to come out. Hopefully, we can get as many people in those seats as possible, and then please visit our website, asogfilm.com. You can get the tickets there. You can also get involved in the Impact campaign to support these folks in Sicogon.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Sean. I'm so glad we got you into the lounge space. Share your socials with folks so they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at Shawnee, SEANY.Devlin, DEVLIN. That's my Instagram handle, and it's the same thing on Facebook. And then it's ASOG Film, just one word on Instagram and Facebook, and the website as well, asogfilm.com.
There you go. Sean, once again, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Thank you for sharing the journey that you've had in your creative life. And if you're not already convinced to watch this film, come on. It's August 25th at which theater is it at? At
the Cineplex in Winnipeg. I know you probably have several of them there. Let me get the detail right in front of me. Let's see here. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me.
All good. Just to give people some reference.
Yeah, it's 7 p.m. at the Winnipeg Cineplex, and what's it called? The McGillivray Cinemas.
There you go.
Yeah, Cineplex Odeon McGillivray Cinemas. 7 o'clock. The tickets are only available online, so folks are encouraged to come to the website and get your tickets in advance.
Those tickets. Definitely cop those tickets. Sean, thank you again.
Thank you.
Look forward to getting you back in the lounge space in the future.
Love it. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jay.
All right, take care.
All the best.
Be easy.